After the break, I will talk to Senator Sani, representing Kaduna Central Senatorial District, and the sponsor of the Firearms Amendment Bill that has now scaled second reading. So throughout this week, it has been talks on insecurity on the floor of the Red Chamber. And now the senators are calling on President Muhammadu Buhari to declare a state of emergency on insecurity. How is this going to solve the problem?
Thank you very much. Of course, we have to start with the background. You must be aware that this very Senate have discussed the issue of insecurity more than any other subject matter since the inception of the Ninth Senate. And of course, we have shown a lot of concern. We have more motions on the issue of insecurity in different constituencies across the country more than any other subject matter again. Of course, we try as much as possible also to work closely with all the relevant security agencies in this country. We have also given them all the necessary support in terms of budgetary allocation and support to ensure that all the various security agencies in this country have enough resources to execute their programs and implement some important security issues in this country. Unfortunately, up to this moment, the issue has been lingering. Of course, I cannot sit here and say that we have been able to address the problem because virtually on a daily basis, we have had a lot of problem of attacks by bandits across the country, a lot of crisis of kidnappings across the country, as well as attack by bandits in our communities, where we have lost a lot of innocent lives. And of course, you are also aware that when we look at the Constitution, you must also agree with me that the most important responsibility of any government is to protect the lives and property of the citizens of that country. And I can say here with all sense of responsibility that we have not been able to achieve this in this country. And that is the reason why we believe government must put a lot of effort toward addressing this problem, because this problem is lingering, and we at the level of National Assembly, like I said, we have done all we need to do.
Are you saying that the government, the reason why this matter has degenerated to this extent is the fact that the government is slow to act?
I think it's slow, but only recently the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, have acted by listening to our own call to at least change the service chiefs, because I think it's a positive step. We have been calling on him to at least overhaul the entire security sector of this country in the last 1 year. But we cannot say that it's late now. He has done that just recently, and I think we will sit down like in our resolution last week with all the new service chiefs, and we will certainly invite them to the National Assembly to address not only the senators, but to address Nigerians on their own programs, how they intend to approach this insecurity crisis across the country. We need to listen to them, and I think they need to speak to Nigerians, because the problem is really, really serious. And of course, it has affected the economy of this country, particularly the economy of our people who are the downtrodden, mostly who are farmers. Now they cannot farm any longer again. The common people who wake up in the morning to go and do their own normal businesses, they cannot do it any longer again. So their lives have been affected. And I think that is the reason why we have resolved not only to clear the service chiefs, because the president have already sent the letter to us, and as I'm talking to you, they're going through screening by the committees, by the relevant committees. But after that, we have also resolved to invite them to speak to Nigerians, not only with the senators, to tell us what is their own plan. What are they thinking they can do differently from what the other services did of course, that is what I think Nigerians will want to hear.
You proposed the Firearms Amendment Bill, which has killed second reading on the floor of the Nigerian Senate. Tell us more about this piece of legislation and how this bill will intend to mop up small weapons and arms in circulation and stop its proliferation.
It's a very straightforward bill. Of course, if you look at the act itself, it has not been updated in the last 30 years. It's obsolete. And if you look at the consigned raised even by the United Nations Regional Center for Peace in Africa, they have recently raised a very serious alarm and concern about the level of proliferation of arms and weapons in our country, Nigeria. And of course, analysts have already came out recently to said that out of about 500 million illegal weapons and small arms that are circulating within West African sub-region, about 350 million of such weapons can be found here in Nigeria. And I think we're talking about 70% of that number only in Nigeria. And we know the reason. The reason is simply because in this country, our laws are not very, we don't have very strong laws to deter the people that are moving around with illegal arms in this country. And of course, most of them are criminals, but they can afford to do that in Nigeria, but they might not be able to do that in other parts of the world because our laws are obsolete. They are not really, we have to, that is the reason why I decided to come with a bill to update the law, at least to bring it in line with the global best practices. That is what we're trying to do. They don't get into the hands of other people who might also use it again. So it happens in other...
but when you talk about stiffer sanctions, because you mentioned stiffer sanctions, that's the amendment to this act. Yeah. What are we looking at?
Of course, let me tell you, if you go back to look at this Firearms Act I'm trying to amend, I went through it and I will ask a lot of people to go through it, the one we're trying to amend. You realize that most of those penalties, if you are caught with illegal firearm in this country, you have an option of either paying fines or imprisonment. Why should you have that option? That is one. We are trying to remove that completely. It has to be imprisonment. You don't have an illegal firearm where you certainly have no license to own it, and you are being caught by the relevant security agencies and you'll be taken to court and you'll be asked to pay a fine. That is not happening anywhere in the world as I'm talking to you. So we are trying to look at that, most of these sections, and amend them. Secondly, even the penalties, some of them are as little as few months imprisonment. Some are even bailable offenses, charges. So we believe these are the areas where we need to look at it if we really are serious about addressing the problem of insecurity in this country. That is a problem. Whenever a person is being kidnapped in this country, you realize that those people the kidnappers have a lot of sophisticated weapons. You ask us, where are they getting it? We're not talking about even the Boko Haram terrorists. We're talking about the kidnappers. Some of them are even local people, but they have access to weapons in this country. So we have to also try. And we also have to look at the armed dealers. It's an area where we are also working toward addressing it in the current act, the bill we are trying to amend, so that we can update it, like I said, to global best practices. If we don't do that, we cannot address this crisis of insecurity.
All right, so well said. We'll go on a short break right now and we'll be right back.
Okay.
People in the rural communities in your state have suffered several attacks, crimes, and all sorts. Is this a failure of government, or is this an incapability on the part of security agencies?
I think it's a combination of both. I can't say that it's the government, but when you say government, you have to be a bit specific, because when you talk of government, you know the system of government we practice in Nigeria, presidential system of government, where the entire security in this country is being controlled by the federal government, not the state government. And of course, the state government can do as much as they can do. They rely on the federal government, who control the entire security institutions we have in this country. And of course, in Kaduna State in particular, we have a governor that have done extremely well in addressing the problem of insecurity in our own state. I can testify to that because we work closely with him. He sometimes even try as much as possible to come up to Abuja to meet virtually all the head of the different security agencies in this country. Several times he met the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, even the police, the SSS. But of course, that is all he can do. But like I always say, the issue of insecurity cannot be addressed only by a particular state. We must work together, and we must be on the same page. But some of the neighboring states have been frustrating our effort because whenever we destroy the camps of these bandits who have been attacking, killing our people, destroying our communities on a daily basis, most of these neighboring states, unfortunately, sitting down with these criminals, compensating them. And when they run from Kaduna and to our neighboring state, the state governors welcome them, sit with them, compensate them. And that is, for me, is really, really worrisome. And it's something that is unfortunate, because they're criminals. They can come to our state and kill our people, destroy our communities, and move to the neighboring state, which is not more than an hour away from our state, and they will welcome as if, and even some of the people within the society and the governments are even saying we should allow them or sit with them and even pardon them. I don't believe we should pardon criminals.
I was actually coming to that, because the Zamfara State Caucus of the National Assembly, said that there is now peace in their state. This is one of the worst hit states in this insecurity attacks and all of that. And now they are saying there's peace in their state, and this is because the state government have been holding peace talks with these bandits, and this in some way has salvaged the whole situation. And now they are even calling on the federal government to take the same step. How do you feel about this call to grant repentant bandits amnesty?
How can I believe that they're repentant when we are facing series of kidnappings even along the axis on a daily basis? And I think it's a dangerous step they are taking. Is a very, I don't want to use some very strong words, but I think, to say the least, it's irresponsible, because we should put more effort toward rehabilitating those victims of those criminals. Because when you go to Zamfara, they're talking about, and neighboring states, if you ask them sincerely, can they tell you the number of IDPs there, those people that have completely been displaced by these criminals? They are homeless. Their children are not going to school any longer again. They don't know when they will ever go back to school. And you are wasting a lot of emphasis and time toward compensating people that are criminals.
What is the legislature doing to support these communities that are worst hit by these violent attacks?
I think at this material time we're addressing this issue locally. For me, as a senator representing Kaduna Central, I have about 7 local government I'm representing, but out of the 7, 5 of those local government have been affected seriously, and these bandits have been attacking 5 local governments within my constituency, like Bindungwari, Giwa, Igabi, Chukun, and Kajuru. So I've been trying my best to support the victims of those attacks. We have been trying to take care of their families. For me, that is the most important thing. We are trying to provide shelter to to them because it's also very important intervention. And we're also looking to ensure that their children are not affected because they need to go to school. Like I said, if we do not look at that issue critically and address the issue, particularly the families of those victims of these bandits, we are going to be in a major crisis in the near future.
Tell us more about some of the interventions you've made in your senatorial district and how you've been able to attract government presence to your state.
Thank you very much. Of course, you know, my own constituency, Kaduna Central, most of my people are predominantly farmers, and our women are also into business. So I try as much as possible to use my own foundation. If you go to Kaduna, you will agree with me that Sani Foundation is one of the leading non-governmental organizations that have been supporting the less privileged people within our societies in terms of support for girl child education, supporting the less privileged, looking at and helping them to address their problem of healthcare, education, and supporting them to also enhance their own businesses. Recently, we have been partnering with different government agencies. Personally, I'm the one with the foundation that have been sponsoring most of those people, paying all the necessary fees to help them to assess government social investment support, because you need to educate them, you need to train them, you need to also support them to assess those kinds of loans and grants. And as I'm talking to you, over 4,000 people in my own constituency through my foundation have benefited. And that is in the issue of businesses. We have also trained them using recognized government institutions, because some of these grants or loans, you cannot access them except you go through some trainings. And of course, you know, our people are poor, they might not afford those kind of fees. And we try to pay that fees for them, train them, and to help them to access most of those grants they have received and loans. That is one. Two, every year, my foundation tries to support children of that cannot afford to pay their WAEC fees and JAM. Only last year we supported over 1,000 children, and I'm happy to say that they are doing very well because their children that come from very poor family background. And I will try to do that because we know the problem in northern Nigeria is very serious, but our number one problem is education. I'm happy our governor have done a lot in improving the infrastructure. We have done a lot in supporting women because we believe our women are very hardworking, but they need support to enhance their businesses. So we, through my foundation, we have trained thousands of them. Only recently, we trained about 500 women, and we have supported them with starter packs, and they are doing very well in their businesses. We give them the support, some in terms of giving them what they need to do the business, and with some money to also start the business. So I think I've done a lot in that area, and we're ready to do more because I believe we're elected by these people to not only to rely on government to do everything for them. That is why I'm calling for all the well-meaning Nigerians to also come out and support the government, because we need to do that if we want our society to develop, and if we want our people to also stand on their feet and succeed in their small businesses.